I'm holding in my hands a silver coin and a gold coin. And wait until you see what this silver coin and gold coin really mean. In fact, I'll hold them up so you can see them for yourself right now. And then I'm going to introduce today's guest, Billy Crone. Pastor Billy Crone brought these coins from Israel. Welcome to Prophecy Watchers.
Thank you, Gary. It's always a pleasure to be on.
These coins are fascinating in so many ways.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd see something like this. This particular coin is a silver coin, and it has on its obverse side two faces.
Yeah.
One the face of an ancient emperor, and one the face of Donald Trump, superimposed over
that wild,
the
Gary?
ancient emperor. Now,
Yeah.
Donald Trump, Billy, is a very controversial figure.
Yeah.
I don't care what else you say about him; he's very controversial.
Yeah.
And he stirs up conversation.
Yeah.
Even in Israel. Tell us about that.
Well, again, I not only believe, and I think most of the viewers would agree, that our president, President Donald Trump, it's not by chance that he was put into office. And again, leading up to the election, I think it wasn't just an atmosphere of concern. I think some of us felt like, man, there's a spiritual battle going on. Because I think it was a spiritual event, and that it was God who placed him there. But when you take a look, Gary, and that's what we do in our latest study, and you look at what the Jewish people think about our president, President Donald Trump, hands down, they admit, man, this is not by chance. He has been put there, President Donald Trump, by the hand of God, and not just for us Americans, but they really believe he was handpicked by God, just like Cyrus in the Old Testament, to help them in the last days, specifically to build the temple.
I have my Bible open to Isaiah 44, verse 28, and I could read a lot more than verse 28, but in the interest of time, I'll just read verse 28. It's an ode to the building of the temple after the Babylonian captivity.
Yeah.
And it says, that saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure. Even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple thy foundation shall be laid. And so here's Cyrus, a Gentile, powerful emperor, a man who, by the way, came to power in a time of tumult and chaos. And he's the man who actually provided the background upon which the temple was rebuilt after it was destroyed.
Yeah.
And so he's a hero in Jewish eyes. Here he is on a silver coin, superimposed by the image of Donald Trump. Now, there are a lot of people, I think, who would take umbrage at that image.
Yeah.
But what it means to the Jews is fascinating to me. And let's sort of take up where we left off on the last program. And I want you to convey, based on your trip to Israel and your having obtained these coins, convey, if you can, what's in the heart of Israel today.
The heart of Israel, Gary, is they truly believe they're on the cusp of rebuilding this temple. And the prophetic significance for you and I as the evangelical Christian is we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this will be the temple that will be in existence in the 7-year tribulation that the Antichrist goes up into halfway and commits the abomination of desolation. And again, the news for you and I, if we see them getting that close to pulling off actually building this temple, and we leave prior to the 7-year tribulation, that temple's in the 7-year tribulation, we don't know the day nor the hour, but man, it sends a message, it's got to be getting close. And to have our president's head on these coins is wild, and not just have his head, but his head's specifically, strategically, purposely positioned there with Cyrus, who helped the Jewish people build the previous temple. That's exactly the message they're saying. In fact, if you flip it over, on the one side, of course, is his head with Cyrus, but on both coins, what's on the back side? It's the temple.
Yeah, the third temple.
Make no bones about it. That's what they believe. And the Jewish people right now are firmly convinced, especially with his building background, that President Trump is going to be the guy, and this is their words, who's been handpicked by God at such a time as this to arise to a position of influence and power as the American president to help them build this temple. The Jewish people have been wanting that temple for a long time, but one thing that they lacked was basically the support to pull it off, especially with the dynamic with the Muslim community and what have you. But here comes out of nowhere our president, who nobody thought would win, and he didn't just win, but he is the biggest supporter of Israel. We saw that again with the embassy move, acknowledging Jerusalem as their capital, which, by the way, previous presidents had promised, but they all chicken livered out. Bill Clinton promised to make the move when he was a candidate. He didn't do it. George Bush Jr., he promised to move it over the capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He didn't do it. Barack Obama, he made no promises and refused to even go that route. And he became the most anti-Christian, anti-Israel president in the history of the United States. And then out of the blue, here comes President Donald Trump. He does what he said in his words. We quote him and share interviews. This is not only the right thing to do, it's a common sense thing to do. But again, the Jewish people, yeah, they're excited about that, but they really believe it isn't just about the embassy move, it's he's here to help us build this temple.
Prophet Isaiah, I'm going to read on. The next verse after the one I just read is Isaiah 45:1. Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have held, and subdue the nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him 2-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. And I could read more, but you get the idea. God has placed upon Cyrus the task of bringing the Jews out of a seemingly impossible situation back to the point they could worship in their own temple again. And the Jews today, and I don't know how many, and you may have a much better idea than I do, I don't know how many Jews believe this, but they have a priesthood that they are raising up right now. And they have young boys they're training, and so forth and so on. What's happening? What's your sense of what's going on?
Well, let me share one more thing with the shekel there, the temple coin, the silver shekel. And then I'll tell you about the priesthood. Gary, it's wild how far they are with this. If they get permission today, basically, in a nutshell, they're ready to go today.
Wow.
They're not like, well, okay, well, we better start making all these preparations. No, they're ready to go. They just need that permission. Now, that shekel, the neat thing, a lot of people say, well, that's just, okay, that's weird that our president's on the head there with that. But that's silver half shekel coin right there. That's specifically designed. This is from the Mikdash Temple Educational Center. It's specifically minted with the Torah specifications that it has to be at least 9.5 grams of silver. Why? Because that was the specifications in order to qualify to be used as an actual temple shekel coin in the use of the temple services. So you're not looking at something that's just commemorative. And this is their words. You can see it on their website, Gary. This is their words. They believe that that coin could therefore qualify as an actual temple that could actually be used in the temple services, which of course would be in the 7-year tribulation. And to hold that in your hand, it feels like, man, I'm holding a piece of prophetic history. It's wild. Gary, this is not make-believe. This is what's going on right now in the news. But you mentioned the priesthood. Priesthood, Gary, they not only have, and they've had for a while now, the priesthood garments, but they've got whole schools there. They're training priests from around the world to be prepared for the sacrifices. In fact, we even list the classes that they take about, the dimensions of the temple, the services of the temple, all the different ceremonies and things. These, like they're going to college. It's priest college. They're training them, and they have been training them for quite some time. Again, the Sanhedrin, which is another issue, the Jewish Sanhedrin is basically the ruling elite, 70 elders with the high priest. They were in existence when Jesus was put on trial at his first coming. They went out of existence. They just came back in existence not that long ago, and they've already are not only themselves, along with the Temple Institute and the Temple Mount Faithful, the Jewish Sanhedrin, the newly reformed in our lifetime Jewish Sanhedrin, has already picked the next high priest, a guy named Rabbi Baruch Kahaim, and they're doing the temple ceremonies. And this Gary, this is just a couple months ago. They're doing actual animal sacrifices, and we share the video clips on the videos. We share the pictures in the book, and but the priesthood, you're like, well, how do they know who's the priest? You go, well, they all got to have the last name Cohen, meaning the priest from the priestly tribe. Well, there's that. But we've actually got on reports, and we share the video clips and in the book, that they have, I kid you not, Gary, we're all worried about the economy, what's going on. They have cataloged and they have a database of all the Jewish people around the world. They have them in databases who qualify for the priesthood. They have no lack of shortage of priests. They're coming over there to Israel. They're bringing them over to Israel. They're training them as we speak in Israel. They are ready to go. They're redoing, and they're not only reenacting the Passover sacrifices, they're doing the Omar barley sacrifices, they're doing the first fruits sacrifices, ceremonies, and things of that nature, but they're going down. They're not waiting for permission for this temple. They're getting the articles ready, they're getting the priests ready, they're getting the training ready, all the practical knowledge ready. All they need is, if you will, the trigger to just build it. And they're ready to go. I don't think people realize how fast that temple could go up. In fact, one report that we came across, one of the supporters of building the temple, they said, with our modern technology, you give us permission, we can have that thing up in 1 year.
So on a prefab basis, I suppose they must have something already in the works.
Yeah. Gary, 5 messages and 5 chapters in that book, okay, 5 messages on the DVDs, was just on the temple and how close we're getting. They are not just ready, they've got the actual, and we share, they're pumping it out. You can go to the Temple Institute, they share the commercials, they share their progress, and we share the video clips there, but they've got the animated blueprints. The blueprints are ready for the temple. The blueprints they've already have ready also for the Sanhedrin, where they're going to rule and make their decisions, just like at the first coming of Jesus. It's all ready to go. They've got it paid for. They've got it ready to go, the blueprints. They've got the materials. They're just ready to go. In fact, this is wild. We even came across it right now as we sit here, Gary. You know what the Jewish ladies are doing in the area of Samaria there, north of Israel? They are weaving the actual temple veil that is going to separate the most holy place from the Holy of Holies in this new rebuilt temple. They're weaving the veil.
Now that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And that tells you, they're not going, well, I hope somebody gives us permission. And then we get permission. It's like, well, it's going to take another 50 years before we get all the stuff ready. Gary, people don't realize how ready they're ready to go. The only thing really holding them back is permission. And once they get permission, like they said, 1 year.
Let me interrupt you just for a moment, and I've got here a DVD set from Billy Crone. It's the video version of the book, but it has something the book doesn't have. Final Countdown, Tribulation, Volume 1, The Jewish Temple and the Antichrist, on DVD, has pictures to go with it. Now, I'm going to ask a question. I hope the answer is yes, because you didn't know I was going to ask this in advance, but those women doing the weaving, do you have pictures that are on the DVD set so that people can actually see what they're doing?
Exactly. We have well over 100 video clips of evidence, interviews, and that's not counting all the pictures. And some pictures that I personally took while I was over there recently in Jerusalem. Gary, this is hot off the press stuff, current in the news, what's going on with the Jewish people, and most people, unfortunately, don't have a clue. Now, another aspect, if you don't mind, I'm bringing up, and talk about the temple that we deal with extensively. A lot of people say, okay, well, that's nice, and you got the articles, you're training the priest, and whatever, but, man, that's going to cost a lot of money. And when you take a look at their blueprints, and when you know what they're going to do, they've got basically all the articles ready to go, and they've invested millions and millions of dollars in doing that. But that's already done, paid for. But when you take a look at what they're preparing for this temple, it's just like the Old Testament. It isn't just a post. It's a post overlaid with gold. It's not just walls inside the most holy place. It's overlaid with gold. So you're talking, okay, you got the articles, but where are you going to get all the cash for this? Well, we demonstrate, again, this is hot off the press stuff, some wild things. You can actually go right now and you could be a part of donating, and they've done this for several years, to rebuilding the temple. So they're getting donations from around the world, and not just from the Jewish community, right? It's from around the world. But they're having fundraising campaigns, and every time they do them, they get their goal lickety-split and above. But one of the recent developments, talk about hot off the press, and we share an interview with Rabbi Yehuda Glick. Rabbi Yehuda Glick is basically he's working with one of the many institutes that are wanting to build this temple, but he's become a martyr of sorts, because I think it was in 2014, He had suggested that the Jewish people should have the right to pray on the Temple Mount like the Muslims.
Yes.
The Muslims shot him 4 times for that. Shot him. And he survived, and which the doctors are saying was a miracle. So it basically backfired on the Muslim community. And so he's basically become a poster guy, if you will,
Yeah.
a martyr for we need to build the temple. And the Jewish people have the right to be up there. So anyway, so he recently shared, we shared the actual interview, Gary, I kid you not, where they were following, talking about the finances for the temple now. Where are you going to get the money? That's a lot of gold to build that thing, right? Not only with their financial campaign, but he went back, him and some other researchers, they started following the Bible, where the Bible talks about there's gold in them Dar hills, basically, the gold of Ophir and things that nature. So they went and followed the scripture, and sure enough, they have discovered gold. And this is in the study on video. And he said that this is a recent development, and he says that we have found a gold vein. And he says, not millions, we're talking billions of dollars worth of gold. His words, not mine. And we're going to use it to build the temple. This just happened.
You know, God will provide.
Yeah.
That we, as Christians, we teach that all the time. The Lord will provide. The temple treasure is said to be buried somewhere in Israel, which is much, much gold.
Yeah.
And now a vein of gold.
Billions.
The Lord will provide.
Yeah.
The temple, even what I consider to be an evil temple, the one that the Romans destroyed, was built by the Herodians,
Right.
and and it had its negative aspects.
Right.
It was a glorious temple, gold plated.
Yeah.
They said that when you stood at sunrise in the right place, it was blinding to look at the temple because it would reflect gold and golden light in your face. It was just amazing. And I suppose the people who are building right now understand all that.
Oh, yeah. And again, but to play the role of the skeptic, okay, so you got all this other stuff ready to go.
Yeah.
But where are you going to get that amount of gold? Gary, they've got billions of dollars of worth ready to dig out of the ground. There is no shortage of gold just in time for this last day's temple. One neat thing about, you talk about the previous temple, that was kind of a little sidetrack here, if you don't mind. That's a neat aspect of fulfillment of a prophecy that Jesus made in Matthew 24 when they're walking along that temple.
Yeah.
And he says, see this thing right here, which was an amazing edifice, right? And like you said, covered in gold and whatever, that you take a look at this thing, he says, hey, it's going to go. And then whatever. And then he starts to talk about his second coming, Matthew 24, etc. And that actually, because there was so much gold on that thing, that when the Romans came in, and they destroyed that temple, and with fire, it melted the gold. The gold came down, went into the rocks, and just like Jesus said, he says, not one stone will be left unturned. That's what the Romans did to get the gold that had now went into the rocks. They overturned them all to get to the gold, fulfilling
over the wall.
prophecy. Fulfilling the prophecy that Jesus talked about there.
Yeah.
But and again, this just happened, Gary. While we're over here worried about the economy or who's going to win what game, the Jewish people have literally, to use the term, struck gold big time. And they're not putting their pockets. This is from Rabbi Yehuda Glick, and he says, we're going to use it to build the temple.
Now, I have a question coming up. First, I just want to say once again that this book has information in it that is brand new. Billy travels, he talks to people, he gets info. I don't even know where he gets the info, but you're going to find like the very latest happenings in Israel, all of which lead to an event that is to come. The final countdown, Tribulation Rising, Volume 1, and down here at the bottom of the page it says the Jewish temple and the Antichrist. You talk about this wonderful event, and then it has a dark note at the end. And we've discussed this on a previous program. But I want to ask you just a straight out question. Do you think the rapture of the church will occur prior to the building of the Jewish temple?
Well, I kind of lean towards that. And, some people wonder if that's not going to be part of the bait, the dangling carrot of the covenant that the Antichrist makes with the Jewish people, Daniel 9:27, which is the very event that starts the 7-year tribulation. And many people wonder if, in fact, that that's going to be, you can't say necessarily thus saith the Lord, but is he going to, if you will, put icing on the cake? Okay, we'll give you permission now. Because why else are you going to make a treaty with this guy? And we bring that out. You talk about treaties. We deal with many of the failed treaties in the past for decades now, But the very event that starts the 7-year tribulation is the Jewish people are going to strike a covenant. And could that not be part of the deal? Very well could be. And if in fact that's the case, then, and we see them getting this close again with building this temple, and that's in the 7-year tribulation, and we leave prior, then the action point for you and I is time is running out. And the rapture we know is imminent, and we don't know the day nor the hour, and we can't set dates, but man, it's got to be getting close, Gary.
And my reason for asking this is because we have our viewers, and they're very interested in what you have to say. And they've got neighbors and friends and relatives who haven't received Christ.
Yeah.
And you go to someone like that and you say, you wouldn't believe what's happening in Israel right now. Your friend or your neighbor, your Uncle Fred said, I don't want to hear about it. You know, that's for you Christians to be interested in. I'm not interested in it. But, Uncle Fred, this is of interest to you.
Right.
Because there may not be much more time.
Right.
And this is a great witnessing tool, but you have to be careful about how you use it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And but again, if anything, it shows us again. Time is running out. Yes, the rapture has always been imminent, but when you see an event like this dealing with the Jewish temple that we know is in the 7-year tribulation, we all agree on that, and we see how close they are ready to get that, and we leave prior to the 7-year tribulation. We know that as Christians. Then logically, it's getting close. And again, that should get rid of any sense of procrastination, any sense of apathy, any sense of, well, maybe tomorrow I'll share the gospel. No, do it today, because it might be your last day. But also when we share it with the other person, we realize, listen, the Bible says the 7-year tribulation, it starts with the Antichrist making this covenant with the Jewish people. That starts to trigger the clock of Daniel's 70th week prophecy, the final week. That's why it's a 7-year tribulation. That's what it's being referred to. But Jesus said it's going to be the worst time in the history of mankind, not only for the Jewish people, but for the whole planet. And you don't want to be there. So you don't delay. You don't want to be left behind and be thrust into the 7-year tribulation. And to me, that's the great aspect that we have as Christians, because a lot of people, well, why do we need to learn about this temple? Why do we need to be concerned about that? We're not going to be here. Yeah, we're not going to be here. But it's a constant reminder, don't get distracted in the meantime. Don't get bogged down by the worries and the trials of life. We're not saved for this time period here. We're going up, okay, to a place beyond our wildest dreams. And we'll come back at the end of the 7-year tribulation, Revelation 19, and be a part of the millennial kingdom, which is going to be phenomenal. And so keep your head, if you will, in the clouds, right? But in the meantime, be faithful as witnesses for Jesus Christ. Otherwise, you're going to get distracted and you're going to miss our only opportunity to share the blessed gospel. We will never, Gary, witness in heaven.
I think this little coin that I've been holding up, to me, it's astounding that in our era, the Cyrus, and by the way, Daniel lived during the reign of Cyrus, and he talked about Cyrus. In fact, if you read Daniel chapter 10, it says, in the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, he received a vision.
Yeah.
And all of this is interwoven down through history, and I'm sitting here in the year 2019 holding a coin with Cyrus's picture on it that was just minted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That almost makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Yeah. Well, and not to go too far down this route, because it's like, how far do you start pushing this stuff when you get into numerology? But Trump is the 45th president, right?
Yeah.
Well, the prophecy in Isaiah about Cyrus is in Isaiah 45.
45.
And, it's quinky dink, I don't know. but I will say this, and we bring this out. I'm not going to say thus saith the Lord. But people do look at those things. The Jewish people are looking at it.
Yes.
And they also bring out some very interesting aspects about when Trump was elected, when he was born, as opposed to when Israel became a nation again. And it's kind of interesting, to put it mildly. But another thing that we deal, Gary, real quickly in the book, you talk about current information, hot off the press in the news right now.
Right.
We know that the Jewish people in the 7-year tribulation, after that temple's built, the Antichrist goes up into it, commits the abomination of desolation, and then the Jewish people obviously aren't going to worship him as God, which he demands, and so he goes after him. And Zechariah tells us 2/3 are basically going to perish. And so another Holocaust is coming. You're like, what? Could that really happen? I mean, Hitler, what he did wasn't that long ago. Could we really see this rise of anti-Semitism on such a scale, even in America? Yes. And we bring out this whole new freshman Democrat class, hot off the press, Alexandria Cortez, we got Ilhan Omar, we got Rashida Tlaib making some of the most anti-Semitic statements.
Yes.
We share the video clips, we share the evidence, and yet they're still allowed to be in office. And people are wondering that if we're still alive and still here, and whoever follows Trump, if in fact they go back to a Democrat president, and then you're seeing these young freshmen come up, and could it be then that party becomes even more anti-Semitic? Then what's this next guy going to do?
Yeah.
Okay, and so again, all this, Gary, has to do with prophecy. It's all happening in the news right now. It's not by chance that people are not just our president, but people are being elected, and what the Jewish people are doing. We're just scraping the surface. There's so much going on, but it's time to get equipped.
And you can get equipped by reading Billy's book. It's The Final Countdown, Tribulation Rising, Volume 1, The Jewish People and the Antichrist. We're offering this book for $25, a good price, and free shipping anywhere in the United States. By the way, just go to our website, prophecywatchers.com. You'll find the online bookstore. Just click there and scroll down. And you're going to find Billy's book, but also you're going to find a package, because we love to offer things in packages. The DVD set, which includes lots of visuals that you'll be interested in seeing, we're offering for $50. Again, free shipping anywhere in the United States. The package, if you want the book and the DVD set, along with a couple of bonus presentations by Billy at our last Prophecy Watchers Forum. We had Billy there, and when Billy preaches, he preaches. We got a couple of his presentations here. This package, yours for a gift of $75, free shipping anywhere in the United States, and you'll be amazed at the amount of information that Billy puts into his work. Never seen anybody quite like him when it comes to just tracking down the details and bringing them to you. So that's the book, the DVD set, the package, $75, including the 2 conference presentations, prophecywatchers.tv, and we're there, and we're always trying to track down what's happening right now. That's why we have interesting speakers like Billy Crone. Billy, how would you round it up today?
Well, I'll show one little teaser. Again, there's so many different things that we deal with in that resource. Again, we've just scraped the surface, but we have a whole message, a whole chapter just on the military aspect of Israel. And the scripture alludes that they're going to be like a fire pot, flaming sheaves in a field, and just the Hebrew word there, akal, means to consume, to devour. And you take a look at the statistics. Israel, believe it or not, Gary, little teeny tiny Israel, 20 and a half of them fit in the one state of California. They have the 3rd most nukes on the planet.
Wow. And
they are hands down, the experts are saying, the most powerful fighting force, pound for pound, per soldier. And people don't realize how powerful they are, and certainly in the last days, you're going to see that unfold.
Pastor Billy Crone, thanks for being here. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Gary. It's always great to be on.
I'm Gary Stearman. Hey, you keep watching. We are. Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com.